Right, we are back for our coffee chat, although I've got my water here. We've been away for a couple of weeks because we've both been doing different things. So we're back for a coffee chat. We've got a really brilliant subject matter for you today about scandal and why we're also drawn to it. But before we delve into that and before we delve into what we've both been up to, just to remind everyone, we will be announcing the Asea, the gift giveaways that we've both been doing that were from the people that entered off Brice's channel 2 weeks ago at the end of the show. So if you entered that competition, please take a listen to the end of the show because we'll be announcing the winners and how you can contact us to claim your prize. So Brice, before we get into scandal, what have you been up to? How are things going?
Well, I was in Florida for a week, which was awesome. I love being down there. It's very, very hot this time of year. And then on Wednesday, I said this in my last video. I was on with with Solutions with Aquarius doing our Sophia code, and a dump truck, a garbage truck, hit a power line and completely knocked out our power for basically the whole day. The whole day became a wash because, as we said this morning, you realize how much you're dependent upon modern electricity. So we took our dog over to Georgia Tech, which is a big university right here in the middle of Atlanta, about a couple miles from our house, and just let him sit in the fountain. He just sat in the fountain because it was so hot. We had to make sure he was cool without having the air conditioning. So these last couple of days, I've been playing catch up, missing a whole day of emails and all that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. It's those days that teach you what's really important. Sitting in a fountain with your dog is sometimes the best medicine for being.
The best thoughts come, don't they, when you're doing
Yeah.
things like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize, I mean, we'll get onto our main subject in a minute, but it makes you realize, Shanti in South Africa has been suffering for years now with load shedding. And, we know this is all part of the climate agenda. And it does make all of us realize when that happens to you, how vulnerable we can be. I had my website taken down for having certain health products on there, and these master controllers, the evil controllers as I like to call them, I think this is why we picked this subject today, because there's always a balance between looking for the drama in life, looking for the scandal, and the solutions. And what's happened here in the UK, and it's interesting, we haven't got The Sound of Freedom released in the UK or in Europe at the moment. I know there's places you can watch it, but it's not been officially released. And just as that came out in America, we've had a series, well, in fact, it started a bit before, but we've had a series of 3 top TV presenters that have been involved in various sort of sexual scandals in the news. And it's such a distraction, and it's amazing to see how there's such major issues going on in the world, like there's a big NATO meeting and all things like this, but people are just drawn to the scandal like, a moth to a light at dark. And we were going to have a little bit of a discussion as to what is it in our human nature that makes us do this, and how it's a bit of a psyop because it does distract us from what we really need to be concentrating on.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been very honest with you guys. One of my favorite things to do to relax is to watch reality show. And what is reality shows? It's drama. But the thing is I feel like for myself, it's consent. These people are consenting to entertain you. And I know in that moment, it is just entertainment. But I think although I will say one of my favorite reality shows is The Seven Little Johnstons. And there's really no drama in that show. It's just a family of people who have dwarfism, and they actually live in Georgia. I've actually been in the same store with them at one point, and they're hysterical. There's really no drama. It's just them following their lives around, and they're just hysterical people, and that's why I like the show. There's really no scandals going
Yeah.
on. But so I can't say it's always about the scandal. But I think, as human beings, I mean, we've talked about this until we're blue in the face, Catherine. We will do anything to avoid looking at ourselves and working on ourselves. And I think what attracts people to scandals, I think it's kind of this multi-layered cognitive consciousness where we're able to be entertained by somebody else's problems, but we also don't have to look at our own selves, and we can judge other people on their we can feel high and mighty and judge other people, when in reality, if you were in that situation, you might not act in the way you think you would act. But I do think for most of it, it is a distraction, and it's an addiction. It's like a sugar addiction or a drug addiction or a coffee addiction. The people like the friction. They want to watch. It's like watching the train wreck or the dumpster fire. You can't stop but just sit and stare and watch at it. When really it doesn't affect you. It's not your fight, right?
Well, yeah, it does, and it doesn't affect you in one way, but it massively affects you in another, because I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I'm really interested to see what anyone watching this thinks. And again, I will stress, when we're saying this, we're not pretending that we don't do it. Absolutely not. That is why we're so fascinated about it, because when you start that real self-reflection and you realize that anything you judge in someone else, so people, there's been all sorts of to some of these sex scandals that have come up with top TV presenters in the UK. Now, some of them might be really serious, some might not. We're just sort of slowly starting to get drip fed what has or hasn't happened, and there's lots of allegedlys in there. But the whole point is all the while we're looking at and judging someone else, you only judge if there's got things about yourself that you wouldn't like coming out in the public eye. So it's so great. In fact, one of the people that came out, that's one of the most recent ones, and I can't mention his name because it hasn't been officially announced, but he's one of the ones that's been really, really critical of all the others. And it's that classic thing. Is like, often those people that scream the loudest, we've seen it in the Me Too movement, we've seen it with a lot of what goes on in high celebrities, the elites in inverted commas circles, is sometimes those are the people that are screaming the loudest are because they're diverting attention away from themselves. But there's a lesson in that in terms of what we're doing. If we're seeking out all this information, what is it within ourselves that we don't want to address?
Exactly. And the danger with these scandals too, like you're being very careful of saying like this is only allegedly now, and that should always be in the forefront of people's mind, because there are innocent people that have been accused of crimes that
Yeah,
they have not committed because someone has a vendetta against them. And so
absolutely.
they string up the emotions of people who are, they're basically using you as a tool. They're using you to do their bidding, basically. And so they accuse people until we get this idea of vigilante violence. And according to all spiritual texts, vigilante violence is not positive. It's not good. There needs to be law and order. There needs to be proof. There needs to be a court system in place. And so when you get caught up in the hysteria, and I'm not saying, I think I can speak for Catherine and myself when it comes to like these,
Yeah.
the carpooling of these, that's a terrible crime that absolutely needs to be addressed. However, it needs to be addressed in a court of law. There needs to be proof, because it's such a terrible crime that to accuse somebody of that without any proof is you being a very shitty person, because you are basically projecting evil onto somebody that that person doesn't possess. So then you have to turn around. Where they say you point one finger, you got three pointing back at you. You have to turn around and look at yourself. But yeah, I was telling you, Catherine, one of my boyfriend's favorite channelers of all time is Laura Knight, and she's the one that channels the Cassiopeians, and she's been around for a very long time. And she's like the only channeler that he respects. And he was listening to an interview of hers this morning with a person that asked her, like, she's older now, your whole life, like out of everything you've learned in your experiences, what's the one thing that you can sum up? And she said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. No one can do this for you. No one can save you. No one can spiritually evolve for you but you. And the problem is, we know that's why it's called shadow work. Sometimes it's hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And people will put it off and project it onto other people. And we've seen it, quite frankly, in our channels, Catherine. When we talk about very salacious stuff, we get a lot of views. But the
Oh,
minute
yeah.
we start talking about how to take your power back, we don't get so many views. People aren't really interested.
Yeah, I had on site yesterday. Now, people, there's a really good YouTuber called Richard Phobes and his girlfriend Julie, and they came. We had spent a lovely day, put the world to right yesterday. They came over to my place, and he was saying exactly the same. It's really fascinating how, when we start talking about solutions, and this is loads of people. This is not just YouTube; it's life in general. It could be a teacher, it could be a parent, it could be anything. Again, human nature, as that displacement comes up, the why, we're very good at putting a lot of energy into why we can't do things. And the brain in our human bodies, in our human vessels at the moment, it's physiologically true that the brain is the organ that uses the vast majority of the energy that we need to survive. And the fact is that energy can be put to good use or it can be put to negative use. And gossip, scandal is addictive. You're right. It's just like we're in such an addictive society now, so many of us, because we're in a luxury that we don't have to spend all day foraging for food and looking for water, building shelter. So that is a luxury situation for most species to be in. So therefore, we can allow ourselves to be diverted off into other courses. But it's so easy to get brainwashed into that, because people who are talking about these scandals and encouraging you to listen, and those of us that we all do it at times, I mean, I've listened to some of the recent ones that we listen in, every energy you're putting into that is stopping you doing something constructive to improve whatever area of your life you need to be working on.
Absolutely. And it doesn't take, like I said, two things get to, or I have been saying two. I love that saying, two things get to be true. Two
Yeah.
things can be true here. There are horrific crimes in the world that need to go to law and order. And it's also true that you can honor the process of justice by not getting involved in the scandal and the gossip of it all. And what do I mean by that? You can sit there if you're like Catherine and me, and you're like, oh, I've done this, like, oh shit, like this is because we've both done it too. I probably still will do it again in the future. When you hear these scandals spoken about without proof, my first thing would be like, ask yourself, how would you feel
Yeah.
if that was happening to you? Have that
We
compassion.
have had recent examples. I mean, not as horrendous as, touch wood, and I'm touching wood everywhere here, I haven't been sent to prison for a crime that I didn't commit, like a lot of people, does happen to a lot of people. But we've had a lot of untruths spread about us and about other people that we know personally, both ways. We've had nasty things spread about people that in our personal experience shows them to be very good people, and we've had good things spread against people that our experience show them to be not so great people. And this is where the dilemma lies, because how many people, I do want to say though that, as you said about the little people, not making false judgment doesn't mean you don't step in and take care and look concerned. So for example, I've always got a lot of criticism because the British were quite reserved in a lot of ways. So we don't like to embarrass ourselves we like to mind our own business and not tread on people's toes. That's sort of how we're brought up. However, I've definitely, whether it's an animal or a child involved, you have to, if your gut's telling you there's something wrong, go and ask a question, go and get involved, keep an eye on the situation, whatever. So we're not saying ignore the warning signs. Please don't think that. But there's a big difference to sort of suddenly telling everyone that something is an absolute fact if you don't know it to be true. And it's a fine line. And I'm not saying it's easy, because this is why so many perpetrators do get away with things for so long, because obviously there's a lot of intimidation, gaslighting, threats, etc. involved. So it's not necessarily an easy path, but I think one that we could all really do with putting some attention to make the world a better place.
Yeah, just have a sit and was one of my professors in college said, have a little think. Go have a little think instead of, and that's a huge thing in spirituality anyway, is not reacting to your reactions. Like in the Yoga Sutras, he calls it being watching yourself, like being the watcher, and being able to, let's just say, for example, you hear some information that a celebrity you like is involved in a really horrific crime, or a YouTuber you like. Your first reaction, it's going to trigger you.
Yeah.
But can you notice that trigger and not react to that trigger and sit back and say, let me think this through. Let me wait and see what's going to come about this. And in the meantime, let me work on my own trigger. Does that make sense? Like, we're so quick to react when we hear gossip. We're so quick to react when we hear scandal that we don't have a chance to actually, I think, sometimes use some common sense and use some practicality. And as you were talking, Catherine, I was thinking about generations past, generations before us, And maybe it is the convenience of our modern world that has allowed this to kind of spread and go unchecked, because I would imagine if you're living in a village where you're having to build a fire every day, go and get water, make sure you've picked the fruits and the vegetables, you've taken care of the livestock.
Yeah.
When you have to do that on a daily basis, you don't have time to really dig into the fantasies of your own thoughts. You know, yes, if there's a perpetrator in your village doing things, the village would take care of it. But
Yeah.
as far as idle gossip, I don't think it was as much of a problem in the past, because people were not apt to sit around behind a computer all day and let their imagination go wild, versus closing the computer down and going and working on themselves and spending time outside and with their families. And, you know,
So time for a quick break and a word from this show's sponsor. So I'm here with my friend Jay from Spiritually Raw. Jay, everyone's talking about Asea redox signaling molecules. Why is it important? What do people need to know?
So what happens is a company called Asea created this redox molecule, and to put it in perspective, imagine being born in this lifetime with one tank of gas, okay? It's this redox, okay? And what happens is when you hit puberty, that tank of gas now starts to go down, down, down. This tank of gas is also the same thing, if you would, that signals the cells inside of you, outside of you, and lets the body know where there's a crisis. So as we age, that signaling gets lower and lower and lower and weaker and weaker and weaker. So the weaker it is, the immune system can't find out where to be able to help you when there is a crisis or when there's an issue. This really, for a lot of us, appears to be the human breakthrough that we've all been waiting for, is something that would let the cells know when there's a problem. So now what we've been finding out, a lot of us call it the med bed in a bottle, the elixir of the gods. I mean, we have so many different terms for it. But now what we're finding out happens when you take this, you ingest this, if you would, the Asea Redox, it's going to now start to amplify that signaling to the cell. So wherever the body feels like you may be having a crisis or something that's not where it needs to be, it's going to now have a better chance for that immune system to go to work. Okay. So this is you drink. Okay, this is you drink this on the outside. This is the topical version of it. The difference between these two is one you drink, it's going to go wherever the body feels like it needs it inside. And you may not always know that unless you walk around with an x-ray machine, but it's doing its job. This one, it's about twice as strong. It's highly concentrated. You can rub it specifically on the area that you feel like may cause you discomfort, and it's going to go to work right away. One thing with Asea that I want to tell people that, because I know a lot of people try a lot of products and you have to ride it out a little bit. This is the thing that'll make you a believer. You literally rub this on the area of discomfort 3 times in 5 minutes and wait for it. Wait for about 10 minutes afterwards. So rate your discomfort level on a scale of 1 to 10. And then about 10 minutes later, after you put this on 3 times in 5 minutes, rate that discomfort level again. See how you feel. This is designed to make you a believer, to know that, okay, you're on the right track with this redox technology. So with redox, I believe this, my personal opinion on this is I believe it helps everything else work, because it is the delivery system that makes all the other things work, because there's a lot of amazing nutrients and supplements out there. But the reality is they're only as good as their ability to get at a cellular level. This is really going to help drive that home. So if you're not at optimum performance, you're not what we always say, which is we're 20, 30 years younger. You've seen a lot of these videos already. Then you probably should be texting that number in the description below to find out more about this. And we'll be happy to send you more information.
Absolutely fantastic. So if you want to be powered by Redox, the number and the contact details, how to get help, is all below. Thank you. It's so true. And I was having a conversation with our mutual friend David Cohen earlier on in the week. Anyone who hasn't watched that, please go and watch it. You'll love it. And actually with Sasha Stone. And people take the personalities out of it. And I say, look at the message. And I don't mean that badly about either of those. I don't think there's anyone that can't like David. But one of the things that came across in both conversations that was a really important reminder that I personally needed was that we've had this saying that convenience costs, and we tend to mean that obviously if you go and have a meal cooked for you, it will cost more than what it would do to cook it yourself, because obviously you're paying for the labor, the packaging, the restaurant, etc. But actually what we were saying is it's not that cost, it's the real cost of convenience, about these life skills and the life value, because every time we hand over these sort of core principles of survival, it comes at a cost to our soul, to our decision making, to our intuition. And so a lot of the times, if we were, there's been so much talk about getting back to some good old-fashioned ways of living, you know, cooking your own food from scratch so that you really know what's going into it and you can control the quality as much as possible. And also those people that have got children, to really show how important nutrition is. You know, nutrition should be the main part of the day, not like a quick convenience that you grab and run. So there's so many costs, and I think we're so lucky, anyone that's watching this, that we're now in a time where all these things are coming out and they're shaking us up massively and taking each and every one of us a chance to really look at our own lifestyles. And we can't always change them overnight, but what we can do is say, well, what's important enough for me to start changing something today?
Yeah. I think that would be the first step. You know, it's like Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step is admitting you have a problem, you know, and admitting that you're stuck, you get stuck on the drama, and maybe, you know, be your own reality show. I tell that to my yoga students all the time. I'm like, when you start doing your own shadow work, you realize your life story is far more entertaining than Vanderpump Rules, you know, or the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You know, you're the villain and you're the good guy all at the same time. And you get to deconstruct that. And so and I've seen this all the time, and I think I speak for both of us, Catherine. You know, I know people get addicted to the screen time. It's not just children that are addicted. My phone tells me every Sunday how many hours I've spent on the internet, and it's gone up immensely since being on YouTube, obviously. But kind of check that with yourself. And I mean, I think back on my childhood, your childhood, Catherine, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We lived our lives. We played outside. You know, we knew our friends, and we didn't get mad at our friends as easy and I guess I've noticed too with the scandals, people's triggers are more sensitive now. Back when I was a kid, it wasn't that bad.
So sensitive. The level of judgment is off the scale. And I think, you know, you are so right. I mean, yes, of course, there's some advantages. We're not pretending that when we grew up, everything was hunky-dory. So, for example, you know, there was a lot of discrimination. There was a lot of bullying and things, but it was so different because you had to deal with things face on face. And if you were in a group and, you know, a group of girls, and one of them was being really unreasonable to the others, you were picked up on it. And you were, you know, you had a mirror held up to you a lot quicker. And I think there's some great things. It's like anything in life. We don't want to stop progression, because if you're not moving forward, you're going backward in any area of your life. However, what we can do is pick up some things that did work and carry them forward, and then combine that with new knowledge that makes us improve them even more. I mean, that's the laughable thing now of where we've got to society. It's so not funny that science has gone so astray, that spirituality's got so astray, because the whole point about all of these things is it's just keeping an open mind, questioning, and sort of aiming to be a little bit better, or know a little bit more, or do things slightly differently to what you did yesterday. It just mad, the level of how off straight we've gone, and therefore no wonder we've got all this chaos all around us.
And I also lead that harsher judgment leads into more self-righteousness, which leads into more narcissism, which leads into more abuse. And so the only thing that can stop to course correct this is you watching right now, is just saying, I'm not going to get involved. You know, it's kind of like you learn like with narcissistic abuse. You learn like when there's smear campaigns or flying monkeys, you learn the best ammunition to stop it is to not say anything, just to ignore it, because they get bored and they go away. Right. So think about that in the scandals and the addiction to scandals, right? Instead of, you know, hear it out, such and such, and then, you know, okay, well, I need proof, and then go and work on yourself, you know. And it's because at the end of the day, wherever you go, there you are. So regardless of what's happening to somebody else, or what trouble somebody else is in, or who's sleeping with who, or who's had this affair, or whatever scandal in your town or on the internet you're involved in, you're still you. And as Laura Knight said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Wherever you go, there you are.
I love it. And also, history has shown, unfortunately, time and time again, consistently, that good people can very easily be made to do bad things. whether it's in war situations where, and I'm not talking about saving your life here. I'm talking about, they've done so many experiments where they've got people to turn up the electric dial, where, you know, they've taken good people out of one situation and put it in another. And it's really frightening how quickly the humans can be coerced into doing some absolutely terrible things that in a different situation, that person would never in a million years think they were capable of doing.
It's, what was that you just brought to memory? What was that experiment they did? I want to say it was in San Francisco, where they had there were 4 people in a room. 3 of them were in on it and 1 wasn't. And they would ask them all very simple questions like 1 + 1. And so the first 3 rounds, everybody would say 1 + 1 is 2. 3 + 3 is 6. And then they would like 10 + 10. And all 3 of the people who were in on it, instead of saying 20, would say 21. And so the person who wasn't in on it had written 20 down, but then changed his answer to 21 because the 3 other people, even though he knew it wasn't the correct answer. So it shows you how easy it is to ignore the obvious, to go with the vigilante response of the collective consciousness, when you could easily just say, no, 10 + 10 is 20. I don't know what these people are saying. It's not 21, it's 10 + 10 is 20.
So many experiments, and I think, you know, you can look them all up. There was a film that someone was telling me about the other day, and I really can't remember the name of it, but it was about a whole load after the war. They took a whole load of German policemen that had impeccable careers, family men, you know, nothing wrong with them, put them in Poland, and very quickly they turned into the type of people that would shoot pregnant women naked in a field in the back of the head. And it was a whole study done on this, because there's so many examples. And so it's like the age-old question, you know, we can sit there and say, well, if I got cancer, I'd never have chemotherapy, I'd treat it naturally. But you don't know how you're going to react until it happens to you. There's so many different, you know, the decisions. I'm at a stage in my life now where I've got 2 grown-up children. So I've got so much more freedom to do things differently than when I had 2 young toddlers to look along with everything else I was trying to juggle. And, you know, and so everyone's in a different situation, and we can't know that, and we shouldn't know it, because it's not our business to know, and it's not our lesson to learn. And we saw this with these things and everything else. We saw how damaging judgment can be from both sides. You know, every side always thinks they're right. If you look at the Satanists, they think they're right. They believe in what they're doing. They think that they're saving the world and doing things. You know, I don't really know what they're saying. I'm just using it as an example. I don't know what they're thinking, but you get my point. We all very much, this is my opinion, I'm right, they're wrong, and it's never that simple.
It's never. Absolutely, it's not. It's more complex than that, for sure.
Yeah. So I think, every time I say it's never that simple, there's always a few examples like these ones that spring into my mind. Don't go there. The whole point is, for today, Brice and I have been looking at, you know, what scandal do we choose to get involved in? Is it our lesson to learn? Is it, you know, is it making us, I'm not saying we all have to be saints. God, I don't think any of us are. But equally, you know, I can admit there's certain things I wouldn't want to come out publicly that I've done in the past, or conversations I've had that I would like to stay in private and things like that. So, you know, I just think if we're looking at where we're at moving forward, each and every one of us, if we don't engage in some of this, it's like not spending your money in people that are selling crap or these corporates. If we stop engaging and giving it our energy, it will die off.
It's just like a narcissist. It will go away. Yeah, you're right. Your energy is your currency.
Yeah.
So you choose where you spend it.
So on to a really positive thing. We've got some winners to announce from the last coffee chat we did that was on your show. So tell us what you were giving away and who your winner is.
So I was doing Marnie Alton's website for a couple of weeks because I've had some problems with getting addresses into my Asea domain, which hopefully will be worked out soon. So Marnie Alton, the person who won a month with Marnie Alton on her awesome website, is Violet 9648. So Violet 9648. If you send me an email at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, just put Marnie in the subject line so I know it's you and I can see you right away when I open up my email. All I need is your email address, because I'm going to send you a gift card to your email so that you can have access to Marnie Alton's website for a whole month to take all of her classes. There is something that she says a lot in her classes. The time is going to pass anyway. You might as well pass it getting stronger. And that is such a good example of shadow work. Is pass your time. Your time is going to pass anyway. Might as well pass it doing something very beneficial for yourself, like getting stronger. So Violet9648, please send me an email at esotericatlanta@gmail.com.
And Brice gave me a month's membership as a present, and it was absolutely brilliant. And honestly, I've now been given a kick up the backside that I need to go back into doing it, because Marnie Alton stuff is just absolutely amazing for any level. You know, really don't put pressure on yourself. It doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner or an expert exerciser and super fit and flexible. There's literally something for everyone. And
she's good at that. More, even as fit as she is, and she's pushing close to 50, I believe, and she looks like she's 22, but she says that a lot. She says she doesn't allow people to talk about diets like weight loss, and you don't talk about weight loss. You talk about getting stronger and healthier. And she always says modifications aren't different or aren't better or worse. They're just different. That's all they are. And she always gives modifications. 100% her stuff is accessible to every fitness level.
I have to do some of the modifications. I can't do all the things, you know, because but I love it. I don't care. And even better, you can do it in your own home, so no one's watching.
No one can see.
It's even better for everyone. Now, I was giving away, this is the mine one, but I was giving away one of my favorite Asea products, which is the Cell Performance range, and it was the Mood one. And the Mood one is absolutely brilliant. My family can always tell whether I've had one. One, it tastes delicious. And two, it's just so fantastic. If you need to pick me up, it will give me a pick me up. If you need to bring me down, it will give you a bring me down. It's just these adaptogenic herbs that are in these products are absolutely fantastic. Safe for all ages and everything.
I love it.
So the winner of the Redox Mood is Carol Rathel. I'm going to spell that out because she's just got her handle. Carol, CarolRaethel. Now, Carol, what I need you to do, because I do need your full address and a contact number for the courier. So I need you to email me at catherineedwardslife17@gmail.com. catherineedwardslife17@gmail.com. Put in the subject matter Mood winner. I need your full postal address and a telephone number for the courier, please, because it will come by courier and they often need to notify you. So well done for the winners. Now we're going to take a break from the giveaways for a couple of weeks because we've been having a few sort of delivery issues. So watch this space to come back again, and remember you've got a week to claim your prize. So Brice, very quickly, what's coming up with you? What can people look forward to?
I've got a few deep dives that are coming up on my channel. They got delayed a week because of power going out and some other stuff going on. But more deep dives are coming up. Of course, the same old with the Emerald tablets and the Tuesday readings of the channelings. And so yeah, hopefully we can get Mr. Fox back on soon and answer some of y'all's questions about the Wanderers. So yeah, what about you, Catherine?
I've got some really fun stuff coming up. I've got a couple of really good interviews. One of the things we were both saying and we're really pleased about is that our Rumble channels are now getting a lot more views because the shadow banning is so bad on YouTube. A lot of you, thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed to our Rumble channels. We really appreciate you. And some of our videos, you know very well, are only on Rumble and aren't on this platform. So I've got some great guests coming up, a whole selection. I'm not going to give some of their names away now, but you're going to see everything from self-improvement to food forest to free electricity to amazing in-house water systems, so that are affordable to all, to try and, you know, combat some of the stuff that we're all really stressed about. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I just think everyone's got so much great information to share. And I think you're going to find them all very uplifting. I've been listening to your deep dives. Some of your recent ones have been absolutely fantastic. So I really find those great because it gets your grey matter working again, and it really helps you use your critical thinking skills. So I think they're absolutely brilliant.
I love doing them. I'm a weirdo though, so I love doing research. That's my I like snooping into other people's stories from the past. But no, it does Rosenbergs I covered when I first covered the Rosenbergs, I thought one way, but after doing all the research, I had a completely different opinion about that situation. My heart bleeds for that family, and I feel so bad for those little boys and for those people, and so it does help to do these deep dives. You start to see these stories from different perspectives, and it changes your view on even yourself.
I love that so much. And I'm just going to say one more thing, because you deep dive on those things, which is fantastic. And it really makes you realize how dangerous it is to come to a quick judgment on something.
Yeah.
And my deep dives, I'm so loving going back to my passion, which is how people can empower themselves to get back healthy, whether it's for themselves or their animals, because there's a lot of bad products on the market. It's very difficult for people to get the right quality food that they want at the moment. This is changing. I'm really confident it will change. But so what you can definitely find on my channel is the stuff that you can guarantee, if I'm talking about something, whether it's a water system, whether it's energy, whether it's supplements, you can guarantee I'm so boring at home, because I'm always like you. I'm so into the researching. But thank you so much, everyone that's watching us. We really do appreciate you. And we really do mean that. So let us know what you're thinking below. Let us know what's working for you. And if you've got good techniques that can help others to sort of not get drawn into the scandal, the drama, and, suddenly finding 2 or 3 hours of your day have gone doing something not constructive, let us know, because if you've got a solution, there are other people that are going to want it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Bye-bye. We'll be back soon. We'll be back next week on Brice's channel. Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious, and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, catherineedwards.life and catherineedwardsacademy.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.